Like Philip mentioned, my name is Dr. Ashley McLeod-Morin, and I'm so excited to talk with you all today. Many of you who are joining this webinar have probably actually been getting a lot of emails from me lately. One thing that I work on a lot for the center is really being able to cultivate strategic relationships with stakeholders related to ag health and safety in the Southeast. And as you all know, that's a very broad topic and something that we here in the Southeast work on a lot throughout the year, given our agricultural climate. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about emerging topics that we've heard of from our stakeholders related to ag health and safety. I'm going to share some findings from some listening sessions that we actually hosted earlier this year, and then talk about some new collaborations that we learned about through those listening sessions, but also some opportunities for stakeholders to be able to hopefully partner with our center on. So that's a little bit of a preview of what we're going to talk about today. If you're a new stakeholder to the center, I just wanted to give a very brief overview about what we did and who we are, just so you know a little bit more about our work. So the Southeastern Coastal Center for Ag Health and Safety really aims to address unique occupational safety and health challenges for populations that are working in agriculture, fishing, as well as forestry in the southern coastal states and territories through interdisciplinary collaborations. So we work a lot with departments of agriculture, departments of health from on the state level, but then from an academic perspective, we have a really interdisciplinary team of people working in public health, College of Medicine, as well as in more social science fields, which is what I work in communication and outreach. So the center was funded through the Ag Health and Safety Initiative with the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health in partnership with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in 2016. And so because of COVID, we got an extra year. That is typically a 5-year grant, but we just had word that we will be renewed for the next cycle. And so we're really excited to be able to continue this work into the next 5 years and really expanding on the foundation that we laid throughout these past 6 years. But then we also have a lot of really new and exciting opportunities that we have planned for in this next cycle. And so we'll talk a little bit about those new opportunities today. And so here is just a visual representation of the states and territories that we cover. We know that southern coastal states isn't a term that's always used, but here you can see we include Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, as well as Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And we also work a lot with stakeholders and agencies that are outside of this region. We're constantly learning from the other ag health and safety centers that are geographically located throughout the United States. There are 10 other centers in the country. And so we're always learning and partnering with those centers as well, but these are the stakeholders that we traditionally serve in our center. So talking a little bit about the impact of ag health and safety, many of you might be aware of this due to your nature of work, but maybe you're like, again, you're a new stakeholder to the center. And so thinking about what agricultural health and safety really does impact from an occupational standard, but then also how it impacts our daily lives as residents. And so when we're thinking about ag health and safety, that really includes strong and resilient communities, thinking about how we can better be prepared for natural disasters, or things like agritourism that really relate back to ag health and safety. Also thinking about resilient U.S. economy, we've really seen that come into play since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, thinking about how we can really help equip our food supply chain and workers in that chain to be more resilient for crises and risks that may arise. Also, a very traditional aspect of agricultural health and safety is reducing safety hazards, especially those on the farm hazards. We often think about equipment accidents and things in that nature, and thinking about how we can really help reduce those risks and really help to educate workers, farmers and ranchers to be able to reduce the risk related to equipment on the farm. And then also thinking about how we can work to protect children on the farm. And so there's actually another center that really focuses specifically on child safety. And that's not something that we focus on here in our center, but we want to be able to provide resources for thinking about how we can really help protect children who live and work on the farm. And so that might be farm families, but also farm worker families that come in contact with those dangers on a daily basis. So thinking about the impact of our center, again, I just want to kind of give you a quick snapshot of the work that we've been able to do over the past 6 years. So when we're looking at the center from a research perspective, and these numbers aren't super up to date, so they're probably actually a little bit higher at this point, but we've had 63 journal articles published, 28 evaluation instruments developed. We have funded 9 pilot projects. We've developed 7 issue guides, as well as 3 white papers we were really able to condense a lot of scientific information into practical outlets through these issue guides and white papers. That's something we're really excited about. From an outreach perspective, we have over 2,000 email subscribers. We've hosted 37 webinars, thanks to Philip. And then we've also produced 17 issue-based resource web pages. And so within the past year, we actually revamped our website, and it's constantly being updated and changed to be a little bit more user-friendly and useful to our stakeholders. But one thing that we did in this past revision was reorganizing our issues resource pages and also adding a lot more content to that. And so I'm really excited to be able to develop more outreach content to add to those pages here over the next 5 years. We've also hosted 4 State of the Science meetings that had a cumulative attendees of almost 300 people. And so those are the State of the Science meetings are really one of our pinnacle events that the Southeastern Coastal Center hosts. And so those happen once a year, and we really focus on a broad scientific topic that relates back to ag health and safety. And so in the past, we've done heat-related illnesses and climate change. We've also done mental health, and of course, zoonotic diseases and the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we're really excited to be able to continue that in the future. These past 2 years, it was hosted virtually. And so hopefully we'll be able to meet soon in person for our State of the Science meetings. And those are an opportunity for industry stakeholders as well as academic stakeholders to be able to come together and talk about these ag health and safety issues from both perspectives. And we've really seen a lot of really great discussions and resolutions come out of those meetings, and great partnerships that go beyond our center, but thinking about how we can really be an opportunity to bring together a lot of these partnerships that are working for the resolution of ag health and safety topics. When we're thinking about outcomes, we have trained over 200 people in mental health first aid. We've also received recognition from the Association of Communication Excellence with 4 communication outreach awards, in addition to several research and industry awards as well. And so we're already seeing our impact be extremely wide reaching, especially in the Southeastern region, but also throughout the country. So that's really exciting and something really exciting to be able to build on in these next years as well. So specifically thinking about our outreach team, we have a really excellent outreach team here at the University of Florida. And so that is what Philip and I are a part of. And we work with some faculty on this outreach team as well. And so we have developed many different resources over these past 5 years. And here you can see a snapshot of some of those resources that we've created. We were able to develop a lot of communication toolkits and communication resources related to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the COVID-19 vaccine. But we also created outreach materials on other topics as well, including heat-related safety and mental health. And so, so this is an idea of those communication toolkits where we're able to provide all of the resources to stakeholders to be able to more effectively communicate about a lot of these topics. But then we've also created issue guides that are often a part of those communication toolkits, white papers. Of course, I've already mentioned our online resource repository and these monthly webinars. I think this is a great resource to be able to provide two-way communication between our stakeholders, our partners, as well as our academic scholars that we work with. And so now you hopefully have a little bit better of an idea about the center, our outreach team and what we do, and the work that we've already done. And then this kind of leads into some listening sessions that we hosted earlier this year. Again, it's a big priority for us to really hear what is happening out there in the industry. And we know that our stakeholders our extension partners, they're the ones that hear about these topics and are working on these topics. And so we want to know how we can help support the work that they're already doing. And so we occasionally host these listening sessions to really be able to provide an opportunity for two-way communication between our center and those stakeholders. And so that was something that we did earlier this year as we were kind of finishing up our first cycle. We really wanted to be able to get a wide capture of what was happening in the industry. So in addition to our community stakeholder advisory board, which I'll talk a little bit more here in a few slides, we also talked with extension leaders, extension administrators throughout the Southeast that might not have a formal appointment on our board. We also talked with a lot of other industry stakeholders, some farm worker association groups, and industry leaders that are working in the agricultural industry. And so based on that, we were able to ask them questions about their perceptions of the most pressing ag health and safety challenges. Who were their current partners? Who were they already working with on these topics? Who might they need to work with in addition to those that they were already working with? And then what were some of their needs? What did they need help with? And that was really able to kind of give us some insight on where we would be able to hopefully support our stakeholders in the future. And so we did this through qualitative data collection with listening sessions. And so we hosted them a lot like this over Zoom. Recorded those conversations and then went back and collected that qualitative data that way. And so again, we got a lot of really great findings and information from those sessions. And so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what were those most pressing issues that we heard about. And so these were topics that came up over and over again with different people that we talked with and in different states as well. And so we had representation from all of the Southeastern coastal states, which was really, really great. So some of those topics included heat and sun safety. I think that was no surprise at all, especially here in Florida right now. It is hot and we are feeling the effects of the sun. And that is true throughout the entire Southeastern coastal area. And so we heard about a lot of the impacts that related to that, including skin cancer, overheating, heat exhaustion, and a lot of the health challenges that resulted from constant exposure to the heat and the sun. This was especially true for a lot of our outdoor workers, our farm worker populations, and the health issues that they face, but then also some of the support that they needed there, maybe including, encouraging and educating about more frequent breaks, making sure that you were drinking enough water, and being able to be in the shade whenever you could. And so thinking about a lot of the education and communication challenges that come from that topic is really important. We also heard a lot about the aging farmer and rancher population. I believe now the average age of the farmer is getting pretty close to 60 years old. And with that comes a lot of other challenges as well. Of course, challenges with mobility, especially when we're thinking about working with these large pieces of equipment and machinery. But then also the chronic diseases that come along with an aging population, and how we can better support the farmer and rancher population that is aging, and educating them on regular screenings of these chronic diseases and early detection of diseases. But then also, how can we work to encourage the younger workforce that are really hopefully stepping up to the plate to fill that need of the aging farmer and rancher population. And so this is especially true in the coastal workers that we heard a lot about, thinking about how we could really take advantage of these new workers that are working in coastal communities, on fishing boats, how we could really work to educate those younger populations about a lot of these safe practices that maybe they weren't exposed to and traditionally in the past. Of course, also pesticide exposure as well as pesticide hygiene were some hot topics that we heard about. Of course, that's something that impacts every state, not even just here in the Southeast, and thinking about how we could work with various different partners to educate about pesticide exposure, but then also pesticide hygiene, so that they could keep themselves as well as their families safe after working with pesticides. We also heard a lot about rural community healthcare, which can be a very broad topic, but we know that a lot of these farmer and farm worker communities are often located in rural communities, and rural communities have very unique and specific challenges related to healthcare and the healthcare system. We know that a lot of these rural communities are actually losing healthcare systems. There's not a lot of the hospitals and doctors that were located in rural communities are closing and are not as easy and convenient to get to compared to urban communities. But then a lot of the systems that are created to help that, maybe like the telehealth system, also aren't as effective in these rural communities. And so just thinking about how that then in turn impacts agricultural health and safety. And so if there's an accident in these rural communities, maybe they're not getting as quick help as someone who is located closer to a hospital. And thinking about how that then produces some very unique communication challenges for us as well. Agri-security is another one of those really broad topics that we heard a lot about. And so this included zoonotic diseases. The world is a lot more interconnected today than it was even 10, 20, 30 years ago. And so a lot of these diseases can spread more easily, more rapidly, like we saw through the COVID-19 pandemic. But then also thinking about how that then affects the safe and healthy food supply for us here in the United States as well. So again, this is a really broad, complex topic to be able to kind of get our arms around. But that's something that we heard a lot about and that we're really excited to be able to tackle with our stakeholders. We also heard quite a bit about the farm worker needs, particularly in North Florida. And I imagine this is probably true for the more north you get in the southeastern region. And so here in South Florida, there are more mechanisms for support of farm workers in those areas. There's a lot of really great organizations. Some of you are even here on this webinar today that are working with those farm worker communities, but there's not as many of those opportunities for support of farm workers, especially in North Florida. And so thinking about how we can work to expand the support that are in all the farm worker communities that don't have as much local support. We also heard about farm worker women specifically, and a lot of the health needs that they have that are sometimes lacking here in the Southeast and probably across the United States. Specifically, we heard about a lot of stuff about reproductive health in farm worker women, and as well as pregnant farm worker women, and maybe the lack of resources that they often had related to reproductive health and pregnancy. We also heard a lot about safety among fishery workers. And again, that's a really broad topic, but we know that there's a lot of risk and dangers associated with the fishery population. And again, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but how we can maybe take advantage of some of the younger workers getting into commercial fishing and related work to be able to educate them on healthy and safe practices. There's also a lot of challenges related to musculoskeletal health and how we can work to educate about that, but then also learn more about musculoskeletal health among fishery workers and other workers as well that have a lot of these repetitive movements in their work and the musculoskeletal challenges that then occurs. And so we have a long list of issues and challenges that we heard about. We probably could fill up 10 PowerPoint slides just on those. But again, this is a summary of those issues that we heard over and over again about and from various different groups of people. And so these are some of those really wide-reaching challenges that we're really looking forward to working with our stakeholders on to be able to address working into the future. So you might be asking yourself, okay, these are some really difficult, complex issues, but how is the center working to address those? And so, of course, we have major research projects that are hosted here at the Southeastern Coastal Center. And those research projects are really looking at the why and the how associated with those issues and really working to develop some really incredible innovative solutions to some of these complex problems. But I really want to talk about what outreach is doing to help support a lot of this work that's working towards solutions on these issues, and then some opportunities for how we can partner together to tackle a lot of these challenges. So some very clear opportunities for collaboration, the first of which being our Community Stakeholder Advisory Board. Our Community Stakeholder Advisory Board is a an incredibly wide-reaching group of people that are situated in the southeastern coastal states. They work in a variety of different disciplines, again, including nonprofit work, farm worker associations, extension, academics, as well as commodity groups such as Farm Bureau. And so we're really excited to be able to continue bringing together that group of people to look at some solutions. They also offer a lot of support for maybe looking at research projects in a new light or in a different way. And so we've actually recently started restructuring that community stakeholder advisory board. This was something that we had in our past grant cycle and something that's continuing, but we really want to be able to shake things up to have that group work a lot more effectively and closer together in tackling a lot of these challenges. So if this is something that you're interested in working on and supporting, we would love to have a conversation with you about what that might look like and your participation on the Community Stakeholder Advisory Board. So a quick snapshot of what that looks like. It's often one in-person meeting a year. A Community Stakeholder Advisory Board member will tell you that we haven't met in person, of course, the last few years. And so that's something, again, what we're really excited to be able to get together, hopefully soon in person about. Also, we asked our Community Stakeholder Advisory Board members to disseminate a lot of the resources and information that we develop into your own networks. And so, again, we're covering a wide geographic region. And so when the center creates maybe these communication toolkits, we'll disseminate that to our Community Stakeholder Advisory Boards, and hopefully they will then disseminate that into their own networks in their own state so that we can really get some grassroots efforts in a lot of these outreach products. Again, they also often provide research participation support. And so what this has looked like in the past, for example, is when we have a research project focusing on coastal communities, and then we have Community Stakeholder Advisory Board members who work with coastal communities already, maybe that researcher will be connected with that advisory board member to be able to then disseminate an intervention into that coastal community that the advisory board member already has a relationship with. And so that's just one key example of what that's looked like in the past. Of course, we're also asking our Community Stakeholder Advisory Board members to report on those key needs in your home state. And so you saw that as perfectly exemplified in the listening sessions that, and it doesn't always have to be in this formal data collection type opportunity. It could just be a quick email to me about like, hey, this is happening to my state. Do you have any resources or do you know about anything that could help support the work that we're doing in this? Or just to let us know about, hey, this is coming up. This might be something that you're asked to work on in the future. And so really just being able to keep a channel of open communication between our advisory board members and our outreach team so that we know what's coming up and emerging as those topics, and we can help support those however we can in the future. Other opportunities include pilot funding. So we're able to fund pilot research projects. We actually funded quite a few pilot projects over this past cycle. And so those are usually emerging scholars in the Southeastern coastal region. We really want to connect more with historically Black colleges and universities here in the Southeast to be able to fund emerging scholars looking at these issues related to ag health and safety. And so those applications usually open up in the early fall. We're not exactly sure what our schedule will look like moving into the renewal. That might get pushed back a little bit as we're kind of getting everything moved over into this next grant cycle. But then once those applications open, they're usually awarded pretty quickly. And so I would love to communicate about that to you all when that does open. But if that's something that does interest you, please go ahead and let me know. And I can add you to a list to make sure that you do receive that information once it comes out. We also have opportunities, just like what I'm doing here today, and serving as a webinar speaker. And so we would love to have our stakeholder partners that are interested in participating as a webinar speaker come on and talk about maybe unique challenges in your specific work, in your specific area, or maybe interventions that you've been able to apply that you've seen have a true impact in agricultural health and safety. We're always looking for new webinar speakers that can then talk about topics and issues and interventions in ag health and safety. And then also thinking about how we can partner together in the future on these State of the Science meetings. In the past, our State of the Science meetings have always been in Florida. They were always hosted in the St. Pete, Tampa area before they were moved online. But we're really looking at how we can move these State of the Science meetings to different states throughout the Southeast in the future. And of course, for that, we would love to have recommendations for co-hosts that are in these states that could be able to really provide information on maybe what would be a good location and who could be good speakers for the SOS. We're also always looking for recommendations for speakers and experts to participate in the State of the Science meeting as well. So this is just the tip of the iceberg on opportunities to collaborate with the center. And so if you're interested in some of these opportunities I've talked about, or maybe learning about other opportunities, I would love to chat with you. And so here's my information here. Please shoot me an email, ashley.n.mcleod@ufl.edu. Again, even if you just want to learn more information or connect, I'm always looking to be able to build more partners that could be really beneficial for the center. So that's all I have. I see that there's one chat. I'll turn it back over to Philip though, and we can work on answering any questions that you might have. But thank you all again for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for that great presentation. So yeah, as Ashley mentioned, at this time, we can go ahead and take questions. For the webinar, you can put them in the chat. You can put them in the Q&A. I'll be monitoring those. So if you have any questions or comments or thoughts or ideas, just go ahead and type those in. We'll hang on for a little bit while you're thinking of those. I see your comment, Neza, that you have to hop off a little bit early. So yeah, we have your email there, and of course we'll be in touch. But if you do have any questions since you're still on, feel free to type those in. And then of course, Dr. McLeod-Morin's email and contact information is up there as well if you want to jot that down to stay in touch as well. So yeah, we'll give everyone just a couple moments. If you have any questions or comments or thoughts, feel free to type those in. I guess maybe Ashley, one thing, oh, well, here's a question, and then I can get back to what I was going to say in a second. Have you all been able to work with livestock agricultural workers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Neza. We haven't been able to work with them as much as we would probably like to. And I think that really there haven't been a ton of collaboration opportunities, but I will say we work really closely with the State Agricultural Response Team. Hopefully I didn't mess that up. That's the SART program. And so they work a lot with livestock producers and agricultural workers in more of a sense to prepare for natural disasters, because we know that they have great impacts on the livestock industry. And so we've worked with them a lot. They quite often use our resources. We meet with them regularly and often present about opportunities with the Southeastern Coastal Center. And then in the past, we have worked a little bit with the Florida Cattlemen's Association. Again, just being able to partner with them, provide resources to them. But if there's any ideas that you have or any specific contacts, we would love to work in that space more in the future.
Yeah, and kind of a follow on that, the only thing I was going to say, Ashley, if you wanted to share any information about the website, if they wanted to kind of take a deeper dive to look at some of those past research projects. I know sometimes navigating any website can be a little bit daunting. So yeah, just any quick tips on how to get an overview of the center by going to the website.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Philip. If you visit the website at SCCAHS.org, and that link is here on this slide as well, we have a research section on the website. And if you go to that research section, you can see all of our past major research projects, as well as a link to all of our past pilot projects that we funded. So if you want to learn a little bit more about what we have funded in the past on our pilot projects, that's a great resource there. You can also see the contact information for all of our researchers if you want to learn more about their projects. But we have a lot of resources to be able to learn about an overview of those research projects, including some cool videos that I know Philip worked on. But then we also have some issue guides in our media section of the website. And what our issue guides do is really take a snapshot of major research findings and interventions from our research projects and be able to digest those on a quick one-page document with some really nice visually appealing infographics on there as well. So that's a great way to learn about some of our research outcomes. We also have a section dedicated to our advisory board members and our community stakeholders and community collaborations on there as well, if you want to learn more about the work that we've done with our advisory board members in the past. And then we also have a really cool section on, I believe, the media part of our page, where it's called Submit a Story. And you can go and even if you have an event that maybe your organization is doing related to ag health and safety, you can go onto that online form and submit a story and just provide information about that event or something that's gone on in your community related to ag health and safety. And we would love to be able to share that in our monthly newsletter, as well as on our website. And then finally, I'll share that we do have a really nice monthly newsletter that we email out. And so some of you might already be a part of our email listserv. You can sign up for our email list there on our website, or you can just shoot me an email and I'll get you signed up. And so we don't spam you every day. You don't get a lot of information. You will get updates about webinars like this that are coming up. And then you'll also get those once a month newsletters that I think are a really great culmination of ag health and safety events that are going on throughout the region, as well as maybe different outreach events. Like I believe next month is Child Safety Month. And so we'll be sharing some tips and some information related to child safety. I believe this month was Heat Safety Month. And so of course we shared a lot of topics and resources related to heat safety as well. And so if that's something that you're interested in receiving to your inbox each month, like I said, go ahead and shoot me an email and I can get you signed up for that. But there's a ton of information and resources on our website, but hopefully that was kind of a snapshot of the different things that you can navigate through whenever you do visit our website.